Hey guys, welcome to episode 22 of my Mortal Realms review series, in which I'll be reviewing issue 22. Shocking, I know. There's no plastic in this one, so I'll just get right in. We've got 2 pots of paint, which retail at £2.75 each, giving us £5.50's worth of product with it, which certainly isn't bad, provided you still think the magazine itself is worth something, which I do. We're not saving money on the product or making our money back on the product, but we did make our money back in the last few weeks, so it's not really too bad. We've had a couple of good weeks. Yeah, we can expect a short week. In this magazine, we've got Khorne the Blood God, Mephiston Red and Rakarth Flesh, and your first part of the core rules, which is awesome. And here's the paint. Here's your Mephiston Red. Here's your Rakarth Flesh. Mephiston Red, pretty much always a serviceable colour. Can't really go wrong. And Rakarth Flesh is a nice pallid grey. Gives you a fairly solid... So I'm just trying to sort the light out. I'm getting shined right in the eyes. Nope, that just makes it look really dark. I'll have to get used to it in the eyes. That sounded wrong. Anyway, yeah, Mephiston Red is a serviceable red that you can use for pretty much anything. You know, it's solid, but it's not too dark, not too light. You can paint blood angels with it. You can paint blood with it, and so on and so forth. It's actually a very usable paint. Rakarth Flesh is a slightly weirder paint, but if you are collecting the undead or collecting Nurgle stuff or weird warp stuff, it is a very good pallid flesh to do. Right, let's break into the magazine. Signed by Ian, our Lord Celestant. And the first page, we've got Stormcast Eternals Warrior Chambers. Goes through here. Warrior Chambers are one of the 3 strike chambers that make up a storm host's main fighting strength. They are filled with retinues of warriors who excel at adapting to any military circumstance. Warrior Chambers are the backbone of most storm hosts' fighting forces, which is kind of what you'd expect from something called Warrior Chambers. They're going to be warriors. It goes on to give you an explanation of what they are. Each warrior chamber is made up of 21 retinues of Stormcast. These warriors come from 4 different conclaves. The Angelus Conclave are the mobile scouts flying troop, or the Angelus Conclave. The Paladin Conclaves are powerful infantry. The Paladin Conclaves are powerful infantry. There we go. The Justicar Conclaves provide ranged support, and the Redeemer Conclaves are the frontline foot soldiers. So what's the difference between the infantry, between the Paladin, who are powerful infantry, and the Redeemers, who are frontline foot soldiers? Surely they're both kind of the same thing. Maybe it'll tell us later. Having this many types of troops allows the Lord Celestant, who commands each warrior chamber, a great degree of choice when assembling his forces. It ensures that each warrior chamber can be tactically flexible. It then goes on more. I won't read all of it because I don't want to spoil it, but it does state here how the Redeemer Conclave's liberators act as the anvil upon which the enemy is broken by the hammer of the Paladin Conclave. Meanwhile, the Angelus and Justicar Conclaves offer their support in the vanguard and at the rear, respectively. So that's pretty cool. It's then got some of the ranks and ideas you get. You got your Lord Celestant, your Lord Relictor, your Lord Veritant, your Knight Heraldor, your Liberators, and your Justicars as examples. Obviously, your Lord Celestine's in charge. Your Relocators are the spiritual warriors who can harness storm magic and the realms of heaven. The Veritant are tasked with rooting out chaos. So these guys can reveal historic stuff and that. We've got some guys who look like that, actually. The Night Heralders, basically the guys that tell them what to do and blow their horns. Liberators we know about, they whack things, and Adjudicators shoot things. And we can see here, this is mostly the non-magical guys and the more standard guys, I suppose, we've had before. Next, we've got Rise of the Wraiths. Long before being chosen as the Mortarch of Grief, Lady Oleander had been cursed to an eternity of undeath by Nagash. Ever ambitious, the veiled lady refused to let even death halt her rise in power. In death, she came to rule over the same kingdom she had ruled in life. This also goes on. In Old Dolores, Lady Oleander rose to rule, spreading grief and misery in her wake. Oleander's rise did not go unnoticed. Nagash saw potential in this cunning and vengeful spirit. It then goes on to tell you about Lady Oleander, who she is, kind of how she came to be. You've got nice 2 pages of that. And then it goes to show you where Dolorum is. And it is, as you'd expect from the previous statements, a realm in Shaish. It was once a powerful and majestic kingdom full of arcane wonders and beautiful works of art. Its people worshipped Nagash, making offerings in his name. The Empire was cursed, however. When the Age of Chaos arrived, Nurgle's followers spread plague through the mortal population. Almost everyone in Dolorum died of the disease or turned to the worship of Nurgle. Soon all that remained was a haunted ruin, which the anguished spirits of the dead dwelt, slaying any mortals who were foolish enough to enter the borders of their shadowy home. You can see there, it's a nice little place on the coast, lovely views, and so on and so forth. Ideal place to raise a family. Let's see what they're raise from the dead. Never mind. Next, we've got Khorne, god of hitting things. Khorne is, as we discussed last week, the oldest and most powerful chaos god. He comes from hunting, raw anger, brutality, and things like that. But he also comes from honor, martial discipline, and things like that. So he's got more than one trick up his sleeve. And being the god of war and the god of blood, he's surprisingly good at the fighty stuff. Khorne is the lord of rage and the taker of skulls. He is wrath and fury given form, master of slaughter, and the embodiment of a never-ending urge to destroy. His demons and legions of mortal followers carve bloody paths of violence across the mortal realms, etc., etc. Get a bit of a sore throat from that. It then goes on to describe who Khorne is. Basically a massive bad guy who hits things. Khorne battles the other chaos gods for control. War from the Slaughter gives him power. Every drop of blood spilt in battle is a tribute to him. It's worth noting that almost every god gets a tribute from battle. It's just Khorne gets it the most. And other gods get tributes from other things more. With Tzeentch, it's spells. With long grinding sieges and trench warfare, Nurgle really gets a lot of stuff. And from those who take pleasure or extreme pain from war, Slaanesh feeds off of that. Tzeentch also kind of feeds off the massive amount of change that is inspired by wars, and wars are engines of change as well. Horned rat, I don't know, maybe some rats and some plague droppings. So each god overlaps repeatedly, but Khorne is possibly the more simple of them. Whether they know it or not, all warrior cultures pay tribute to Khorne. Every life in anger increases his power, so things like the witches and the dark elf murder gods also contribute to him. Those devoted to Khorne seek bloodshed at every opportunity. When no targets present themselves, they'll fall upon each other. Yeah, Khorne requires violence, doesn't care who's violent. Then goes on to describe the Skull Takers, who are a mortal who becomes a follower of Khorne, has stepped into the path of the skull. At the end of this path lies immortality. But there are many rivals, and only the strongest survive. It then goes to describe Khorne's role in the Realm Gate Wars, and it has a fantastic picture of a Bloodthirster there. Bloodthirsters are just possibly the best or worst demons on the battlefield. They are just brutal killing machines. They're fairly one-trick ponies. You can do a lot of tricks with them, but they themselves just hit things. But they are really, really good at that trick. they kill things, but I don't think there's anybody else in the realms that kills things as well as a Bloodthirster. It then goes on to describe brothers and rivals. Of all of his brother Chaos Gods, Khorne despises Slaanesh the most. Slaanesh's decadence is directly at odds with the Blood God's preference for directness and slaughter. Khorne is a god of war and hates magic, seeing those who practice the arcane act as cowards. This leads him into regular conflict with Tzeentch. It is worth knowing that extends to Khorne's armies. You won't see magic in Khorne's armies, but you will see they're quite good at replacing it with other things. For example, you've got Bloodthirsters. If they kill enough people, can summon more Bloodthirsters, which sounds a lot like magic to me. They've got massive cannons and war engines that they can bring onto the battlefield. And again, that if it's not magic, it achieves the same ends for Khorne's purposes. And then we've got gore and glory in the vast magma. Wastes of Akshi's great parch. Khorne's followers battle the storm-cast Eternals for supremacy. Whenever slaughter takes place, Scar Bloodwrath, the legendary Khorne berserker, rises to kill once more. They use the words blood and skulls a lot in describing Khornate champions and Khornate warriors. You've got skull takers, you've got blood secretors, you've got bloodletters, you've got bloodthirsters, and you've also got Scar Bloodwrath. GW really like using the term blood when describing Khorne, to the point where it does get a bit weird. It's like massively overused, and you're like, what now? I kind of feel like the blood secretors, who which is a match of the word consecrator and blood, sound a bit weird as a name. Yeah, it does kind of feel they ran out of names to use and just kept using the term blood. That being said, I'm a Space Wolf player. I really can't complain. It then goes on to describe who Scar Bloodwrath is, brief descriptions, and it says he's an immortal Khorne servant, granted demonic powers. He appears wherever battles rage and rivers run red. So he's if he's not a demon prince, he's certainly something similar. Again, even more about Scar. It goes on to, we've got some warriors of Khorne here, with the basic demonic warriors being bloodletters. The lowliest of Khorne's many demons, bloodletters are fragments of their god's fury, drawn to battle like scavengers to carrion. They bellow cries of hatred as they swarm towards their foes. They're very much sort of like Lord of the Rings, where you had hundreds and hundreds of Uruk-hai, and that just streaming in and hitting Rohan with nothing but raw hate. You've got the Blood Warriors. The Blood Warriors are a bit better armed and a bit more survivable, really. But they are human warriors. Blood Warriors are relentless butchers whose ferocity has been forged in battle. They have been granted Khorne's blessing and blessings to help them slaughter. You might wonder why his demons are described as the least, and they go in like huge numbers, and human warriors seem to be a bit more favoured. That's because they're his food. When a human warrior kills, it feeds Khorne, but when a human warrior dies, it also feeds Khorne. So he's happy to grant them a bit more power because he knows it's going to come straight back to him when they die, or he's going to get more when they kill. And that's basically how Chaos Gods feed, how they survive, and how they grow strong. Whereas demons are immortal, so it's a small portion of Khorne laid aside, which is still part of him, but is a separate entity as well. So he can always absorb it, but he tends to prefer mortal souls because that's something new that's coming to him. So tainting them with his essence, and then having them murder to feed him, and then die to feed him, is a better investment for him. It's a better return on the investment, and that's fairly similar for all the Chaos Gods. They are primarily there to feed. They were built from eddies of human emotions, and those eddies still coalesce in like emotions. So anger, fury, pleasure, change, depression, all those things will coalesce towards the gods, feeding them, keeping them alive, giving them what looks like infinite power. It's one of the things where you realise that the Chaos Gods don't want to destroy the world or destroy the realms, particularly for Khorne. He's much better off just continuously fighting, which does lead a kind of a weird question of what would happen if the Chaos Gods won, or if it looked like they were going to win. Would they keep going knowing that there's other worlds and other universes out there, or would they stop just to keep it going round and round and round? Because you've got to wonder, if Khorne wins and kills everything in the mortal realms, what does he do then? His own troops then fall on each other, and the other Chaos Gods. But then, if he wins then and they're all dead, there's no more violence. So he then starves. Much like the dinosaurs of old, where at one point they believed that some of them literally just ate their way out of their habitat and starved. The same with Tzeentch. The same. Without these souls and these emotions to feed on, what do they do? Do they even want to win, or is Khorne's goal just to continually fight? Which is something to think about. Next, we've got how to paint the Sigmarite Mausoleum. Obviously, you'll have done most of it already. This is using the Rakarth flesh to lighten the earth shades there, give you a lot more texture, so that looks cool. And you're going to be doing a lot of dry brushing with the Rakarth flesh there. And then using it to start the base and the skulls, and using the red for the roses. I find the red on roses works really well with just one, maybe two thin coats, because the dry brushing that you've already done gives you kind of texture. So if you just do it red, maybe do a wash and a dry brush or something, if you want. It looks fairly good with minimal painting. You do it red, maybe just highlight a few bits of it if you feel like it, but it's going to look like it's going to look fairly good anyway. Or at least that's what I found when I painted mine. Although I say when I painted mine, not this one, the one I got from Mortal Realms. The wife is playing with and painting. I painted a previous one in the shop I owned, and I found that I literally painted one layer, gave it a bit of a wash, and added a few highlights where it didn't look quite right, and that was it. You know, it was really, really quite simple. And there you can see that you've got the roses there, and they look pretty good. Next, we've got the War Scrolls. Well, is that right? And we've got the War Scroll for the Mortis engine, which we don't have yet, but there's the War Scroll for it. Does it seem like I'm missing a fucking page? Sorry guys, I'm just gonna double check that, because it just goes straight onto that without any weird little introductory page, which we usually get. Warriors of Corn, painting the thing, War Scrolls. Okay, straight into the War Scrolls. We've got yeah, this is an example War Scroll. Okay, so this is page 1 of the rules, which will go on to the that cover page we got last week. Another page of the rules, descriptions, and then a War Scroll for the Night Questor, which is a complete full War Scroll for that by the looks of it. It then describes the Night Questor's abilities. We've got Thunder Charge Strike. This ability increases the damage of a Night Questor's weapon whenever you roll 6 to wound an enemy. When rolling to wound for the Night Questor, any roll 6 increases the Warblade's damage to 2. And then we've got Heroic Challenge. Heroic Challenge has 2 effects. Firstly, the Night Questor can pile in up to 6 inches, provided he finishes the pile in move next to an enemy hero. So that's cool. And where are we? He does not have to finish the move next to the closest enemy model. So it allows you to basically target characters and heroes that you want to kill. So that's good. Makes him an Alpha Strike model really really nice, provided he actually kills them. During the combat phase, Night Questor may re-roll any failed to hit rolls for attacks that target an enemy hero. And if you've moved in line with him and you're trying to kill him, why wouldn't you? Then we've got the Sigmarite Shield. The Night Questor carries a Sigmarite Shield, which is used to deflect attacks of his enemies. This item allows the Night Questor to re-roll failed saves for any attacks that target him. This applies both to shooting and melee. So that's pretty cool. We've got the Dreadblade Harrow's War Scroll. So again, that's pretty nifty. And on the back of that, you've got the Dreadblade Harrow's abilities. And we've been through these before, but again, I'll summarize. Well, actually, I don't know if we have. Phantasmal Discorporation. In order to use the ability, the model must be within 3 inches of any model at the start of the Nighthaunt's movement phase. Instead of moving the model, you can set it up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 from an enemy model. So it basically just teleports, but you have to have it more than 9 inches. So the Dreadblade is more than 3 inches from Sequitors. Yeah, we've got a little thing there. And the Night's Haunt player ensures there are no enemy models. You have to be it must be more than 3 inches, yeah. No enemy models within 3 inches. Then removes the Dreadblade Harrow from the battlefield. After measuring to make sure there are no enemies within 9 inches, he places the Dreadblade Harrow back on the battlefield. So this guy can basically teleport anywhere across the battlefield. That is a nasty move, especially if you use it to pull somebody out of position. If the Dreadblade Harrow, you've also got the Dreadblade, which if the Dreadblade Harrow charges during the charge phase, all attacks in the following combat phase deal 2 instead of 1. If he doesn't, if the Dreadblade Harrow did not charge in this turn, it can make 1 extra attack with the Dreadblade. Instead of rolling 3 dice, it rolls 4. So either you get 3 dice and each hit does 2 damage, or you get 4 dice. So that's cool. And it's got the Curse of Loyalty. If a Dreadblade Harrow is within 9 of a Knight of Shrouds, when it attacks, it may re-roll any wounds of 1 for attacks made with its Dreadblade. Wound rolls of 2 or more and those rolled for the ethereal steed's ghostly hooves and teeth cannot be counted. So that's pretty cool. So let's have a quick look there. So he's hitting on 3+. So you're re-rolling on 1s, you're missing on 2s, and you're hitting on 3+. That actually gives you a fairly solid set of options. Next, we've got Into the Dread Forest. I'll read the blurb. The Stormcast Eternals have established a small beachhead in the... My voice is getting really growly. Let's do it in a growly voice. The Stormcast Eternals... No, I can't do it. It doesn't sound right. Have established a small beachhead in the forest of Kernothiel. The Nighthaunts have infested the forest and glades of the Heartwood coast. If the Stormcast Eternals are to find what the Nighthaunts plan, they will need to make their way deeper into the woodland. Dun dun dun! Again, you've got a nice little blurb here, giving you a bit of story to inspire you. And again, and in this one, you're setting the thing up, but you're just using the standard rules and reference sheet 1, Battle Plan Z, Giran, and playing through the game yourself. So, as with any good game, you've made your way through the tutorial, and now you get your shizzle. On the last page, we have fairly standard. Yeah, if you need advice, go into the shops. If you want to see what's coming out that's cool, go to the Warhammer community website, and there's loads of other cool stuff out there about Mortal Realms. Whilst I love GW and would totally recommend going to their shops, I would also recommend, probably slightly more, going to your friendly local gaming store. Your independent gaming stores have so much more, and I tend to find they're a bit more... I tend to find they're better. GW is about making profit and getting people into the game, and that is one of its important things. Whereas the friendly local gaming stores rely a lot on repeat customers, so you still get upselling, but you don't quite get as much upselling. And there's usually game tables you can play games on, and there's usually a little more space. Whereas with GW, sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't, depending on which GW you go to. None of them are bad. They're all great. My favourites are Portsmouth or Basingstoke or Dublin. I used to live in Dublin for a while. Their GW used to be fantastic. No idea what it's like now. I know the manager of the Basingstoke GW, and he's a fantastic bloke, absolutely sound. Go check him out, and go check out the Basingstoke GW store. It's a great store. He does a lot of stuff for the community there. And I know the manager of the Portsmouth one because I live in Portsmouth. And again, sound bloke. Go out and check his store. And he does a lot for the local community. But there's loads of independent stockists out there. Like I say, the one I used to be part owner of is called A Fistful of Dice, and I'd absolutely recommend them. Although any opinions I express are in no way connected to A Fistful of Dice, so get that out there. I'm no longer in any way connected to A Fistful of Dice. I moved on because, well, it wasn't working out for me and my family. I needed more money, and that was really a work of passion rather than a work of making millions and millions of pounds. And the other few guys stayed, and they are making it work, frankly, what looks to me to be fairly beautifully. Anyway, on to the last page, the page many of you look forward to. In issue 23, we are getting Stormcast Liberators. They're your basic smashies. They don't have any magical... Well, that's not true. They do have some, but they don't have the magical ability to take out night gaunts and night haunts and things like that. They hit, and they just don't have the rend skills and the extra things that the previous guys had. And we've got the Liberator Persecutor, who is basically... Liberator and Persecutor. You've got the Prosecutor, who's basically a big effing angel. He, from what I understand, is basically a tanked up Liberator with wings. Next, we've got issue 24, in which we have a Lord Executioner, Grimcast Reapers, and Glaive Wraith Stalkers. So you've got a pretty awesome character there, and some extra guys for the units you've already got to bolster them up, which again is pretty cool. Actually, Grimghast Reapers. Are the Grimghast Reapers new? I think the Grimghast Reapers might be new, but obviously the Glaive Wraith Stalkers, we've already got some of those, so that's building up that unit. Let's have a look what the magazines are covering. In 23, the Liberators and Prosecutors, obviously, painting your new models, new war scrolls, and a battle plan. That's nice. And in 24, new Nighthaunt reinforcements, obviously. Learn about Lord Executioners, new war scrolls, and battle plans. So that will be fairly awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, sorry Julia's not here. She's just struggling with things at the moment, and yeah, frankly, she can't manage it. And I hope you guys enjoyed that. I just, in case you wonder, if you can hear a weird ringing in the background, that's because I've been fixing up my little cubby hole with things, and I've just realised that the tins, every time I say, you get a little ring at the edge of the thing you're hearing. I've got tinnitus, so it doesn't affect me. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope to see you guys next week.